qualities and characteristics that would help them the rest of their life. So the fact those two things happened, their performance improved, and I felt like I was doing a great job of preparing my athletes for their life beyond sports or beyond basketball. Those two things sold me on Positive Coaching Alliance and led to me being a workshop facilitator today. All right, we're ready to jump into the content of a double goal coach. And the principle we're going to start with is the second one today. And we're going to take a look at this slide to kind of introduce the second concept of a double goal coach. And you are looking at a slide that has two gas tanks. And which car would you rather be driving? One that has an empty gas tank or a full gas tank?
Full.
Good. And Ruben, why would you rather be driving a car that has a full gas tank?
Car doesn't work. It doesn't go anywhere without gas.
Right.
You know. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. And all of us have an emotional tank, and it works exactly like a gas tank in a car. When our emotional tank is full, we can go far, and when it's empty, we can't expect to go very far. And that is an important concept to keep in mind as a coach. In fact, it even extends beyond sports. It's an important concept to keep in mind in any human interaction, that all of us have emotional tanks. So I don't know whether you guys have thought of this before or this is something new to you, but I want to kind of get this concept in your head if it is new to you. And I want you guys to think to yourself, do a little inventory of where your emotional tank is right now. I'd like to have you rate yourself from 1 to 5. And give yourself a 5 if you are feeling sky high right now and if life generally has been treating you really well lately. Give yourself a 1 if you're tired and cranky and if your boss has been giving you a rough time at work lately. Do you have an idea of where your emotional tank is right now? All right, good. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. You guys are doing well. And that's an important thing to keep in mind because our emotional tank impacts how well we perform. And when our emotional tank is full, we perform better. So as coaches, that is really key to keep that in mind. Now, kind of switch back to our coaching positions, our coaching jobs. When athletes come to us, do we have any influence or control over what their emotional tank is when they show up to us at practice?
Not very much, I don't think.
And Ruben, I would agree with you. And what are some things that could go wrong in a kid's day that would drain their emotional tank?
Maybe they didn't do well in school on a test or something.
Good, thanks, Kelly.
Social issues, you know, with whether it be with social issues with friends, you know, maybe an argument or a run-in with friends.
Yeah, thank you. And let's imagine that one of your athletes had both of those things happen to them, and they showed up at practice. What would that athlete look like?
Probably real sluggish, not energetic, not excited to be there, maybe a little bit distracted.
Good. And conversely, let's say an athlete came in and their emotional tank was at a 5. What would that athlete look like?
They'd look eager. They'd look like they're having fun just by being there.
I agree. And I think as coaches, it's important to, first of all, recognize this concept, and then also keep an eye on our athletes, because where they're at, where their emotional tank at, will tell us a lot of really useful information as a coach. So I hope that you will keep that in mind when you go out and coach your teams coming up here. Next thing I'd like to do an exercise to demonstrate how, as coaches, we have a great ability to fill and drain our athletes' emotional tank. So the exercise we're going to do, we're going to have, Kelly, would you be willing to take a game-winning shot in a basketball game?
Love to.
Great. All right, we're going to have Kelly take a game-winning shot in a basketball game, and I'm going to imagine, since there's not many of us here, I'm going to jump in as a coach, and Ruben, you and I are going to be Kelly's coaches. And some athletes, when they make a mistake or something doesn't go well, they look over at their coach. So Kelly, you're going to be the kind of athlete that does that. And Ruben, the first time Kelly takes a shot here and misses, Kelly, I have bad news for you. You're going to miss this game-winning shot. The first time she misses, Ruben, you and I are going to drain her emotional tank by what we say. All right. Kelly, you ready to take the game-winning shot?
Ready.
All right, go fire away.
Oh no, how could you miss that? Oh, we needed that one. We had it. Oh,
that
Kelly,
was awful.
are you kidding me?
Kelly, as an athlete, how do you feel right now?
I feel pretty lousy.
Yeah, I can see why. And Ruben and I's reaction, did that play an impact on you feeling lousy?
Yeah, I did a lot.
Okay. And Kelly, we're going to have you take another game-winning shot here. And Ruben, we are going to flip the switch here. And we are going to, even though Kelly's going to miss this game-winning shot, we are going to fill her emotional tank by what we say. Ruben, you got an idea of how we might do that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, Kelly, take your second game-winning shot and miss it, sadly.
Way to get open, Kelly. Keep hustling. We're going to
get it next time.
Ball. Keep shooting away, Kelly.
Kelly, how'd that one feel?
Much better. I felt good.
Good. All right. And then we're going to shoot 2 more game-winning shots here, Kelly, and you're going to miss both of them too, so just a heads up. I hope you're not expecting too much glory to come your way today. In this next one, we are going to drain Kelly's emotional tank by how we react, Ruben, without saying anything, by how we react. Kelly, you ready to take another shot?
Ready.
Okay, go ahead. Kelly, how are you feeling now?
I feel just as bad as when you yelled at me.
And research points out that nonverbal reactions have even more impact than what the words that people say. So as coaches, that's an important point to keep in mind. Then the last one, Kelly, you're going to miss again. And Ruben, we are going to not say anything again, and we are going to try to fill Kelly's emotional tank, even though she misses the shot without saying anything. Kelly, ready?
Ready.
All right.
Shot.
All right. So those are the 4 ways that we can react as coaches to point out that we can fill or drain our players' emotional tank. I want to quickly share with you one story of an athlete, an example I saw of an athlete filling in a player's emotional tank without saying anything. It occurred a long time ago, and it kind of surprises me that it stuck in my mind because I was a pretty young kid when this happened. In 1982, in the NCAA championship game, Georgetown was playing, and they had the last possession of the game to win the game, or actually to tie it up. And one of their players on Georgetown threw the ball away to a player on North Carolina, and it was a very uncharacteristic play, and it cost Georgetown the game. And as soon as the game was over, Georgetown's coach, John Thompson, went and found that player, his name was Fred Brown, and went and put his arm around him and walked off the court with him. And that was just, to me, a very powerful example of a coach filling a player's emotional tank in what in reality was a devastating circumstance. Georgetown had a chance to win an NCAA championship game in front of millions of people, national TV audience. And it really impresses me that John Thompson, as a coach, would go find that player as soon as the game was over and put his arm around us. So I encourage you as coaches to think of that example and to realize we really have great ability to fill our players' emotional tanks, even when things are looking pretty bleak. So let's look at the next slide here, and it tells us about the impact of having an empty emotional tank and a full one. And it tells us that athletes that have an empty emotional tank are pessimistic, they give up more easily, and they are less coachable. And that athletes with a full emotional tank are optimistic, deal better with adversity, and are more coachable. And by more coachable, I mean that they are willing to listen to you and try to do what you're asking without giving resistance. And I know as a coach, and I imagine you're exactly the same way, I love to coach coachable players. And this second principle of filling the emotional tank gives us the ability as coaches to make our players more coachable. And that will have tremendous positive impact, not only on that athlete, but our team. So keep that in mind. If you have a player that's not as coachable as you'd like, you have the ability to help that player be more coachable. And let's look at the next slide here too about what specifically drains a player's emotional tank and what fills it. We'll start with what drains it. Criticism and correction drains a player's emotional tank. And we have an important role as coaches to give feedback and criticism and correction to our players. And we need to give that. That's an important piece of how we can help our players improve. But also be aware that that can frequently drain a player's emotional tank. And I just want to point out in the book that you have, The Power of Double Goal Coaching, on page 40, there are some great tips in there to how to give criticism and correction in a kid-friendly way so that they can receive it and hear what you're saying as a coach, but still not have it take away from their performance as an athlete. And there are 5 things listed there. I use them. I need to use them more because they are just, they're gold as a coach, to give your players good information and criticism, but not drain them at the same time. Other things that drain your players' emotional tank. Sarcasm. I really would encourage you to not use that with your players. Some coaches like to use that, but in reality, it drains players' emotional tanks. I'd encourage you to stay away from that one. Ignoring, when somebody's talking, when one of your players are talking, and you ignore them, that drains their emotional tank. And nonverbals, and we went through some of those in the example that we had earlier when Kelly was shooting the game-winning shot. Things that fill a player's emotional tank. Truthful and specific praise. And keywords to keep in mind there are truthful and specific. That is what you're shooting for as a coach, to really zero in on the behavior that you want from or that your player performed, that you want to reinforce. That is much better than saying things like good job or nice try. Those 2 phrases don't convey any specific information. And as coaches, we want to stay away from that. Expressing appreciation fills a player's emotional tank. Listening fills a player's emotional tank. And just a heads up, coaches in general are very good talkers and not necessarily great listeners. So I would encourage you as a coach to listen to your players and improve your skills that way. And then nonverbals also can fill players' emotional tank, as I pointed out in that example with John Thompson and Fred Brown. All right, so knowing that our athletes perform better when their emotional tanks are full, and knowing too that as coaches we have to give feedback and criticism, what would be the right ratio to give positives to criticism that will allow our athletes to perform at the best? And I'm going to ask you to kind of pick one of these here, what you think would be the best ratio of positives to criticisms. Raise your hand if you think it would be 1-to-1, if that would be a great mark to shoot for as a coach. 1 positive to 1 criticism. All right, you guys seem like you're a pretty smart group. What if it was 3-to-1? Do you think that would be a good ratio to shoot for as a coach? All right, Kelly, good, thank you. And what about 5-to-1? Do you think that would be a ratio that would help our athletes perform better and also be one that we could realistically do as a coach? That's the other thing we need to keep in mind here. All right. No, that would be my first impression too when I heard about 5-to-1 is, wow, that is a lot of positive to get in there before you're giving any criticisms. Well, Positive Coaching Alliance has pooled a bunch of research, and they looked at marriages. There was a professor at Washington University named John Gottman. He looked at marriages and the comments that were made there and what marriages thrived and did really well and which ones struggled to survive and sometimes didn't. And he came up with 5 positives to 1 criticism. There also was other research done in learning environments, and they found, too, that 5-to-1 would really stimulate kids' learning. And Positive Coaching Alliance pulled this together and came up with what the magic ratio, which is 5-to-1. And that is the ratio that if we can do that as coaches, that our athletes will be excited and motivated when we do that, when we give 5 positives to 1 criticism. Now, when I first heard that, I thought that was a pretty lofty goal to hit as a coach. Part of the reason why I thought that is that there needed to be 5 specific things that I would need to say to a player before I would give him 1 feedback or criticism. And that's not the case. And I want to make a comment here to Ruben, and I want to have us take a look at how many positives are in the comment that I make to him. If I said to Ruben, I love the way you sit up and have participated in this workshop. How many positives do you think are in that comment that I just made? Raise your hand if you think there's 2. Okay. Raise your hand if you think there's 3 positives in that comment I just made to Ruben. Okay. Ruben, would you be willing to share what those 3 are?
You addressed me by name. You praised me for the way I sit up. And I think you also praised me for the way I participate in the workshop. Those are the 3 I noticed.
Exactly. Very good. Kelly, should we stop at 3, or can you identify any other positives that I had in there?
You smiled at him. I think that's a positive, just when you're talking to somebody and you have a smile on your face.
Good. Yeah, we talked about the power of nonverbals. I would count that one as 1 too. And whether I did this well enough or not, though, I tried to say it with some enthusiasm, and that also could count as 1. So just in that 1 comment I made to Ruben, we can come up with 5 positives there that would count towards the magic ratio. So my point in doing this is that the magic ratio, getting 5 positives in there, is not as challenging as you might think it is. Our expression, saying a kid's name, all can count as positives. So keep that in mind as a coach.
All right, that's time there, Dave.
So I got to stop?
Yep.
Can I wrap up?
If you don't mind. Yay.
Okay.
Nice job.
You want me to stop there? Or can I wrap it up?
Well, you can wrap it up if you'd like to.
Give me 30 more seconds?
Minutes. Please, go ahead.
Any questions about the second principle of a double goal coach, filling the emotional tank? Do either of you have any questions about it? Okay, great. I just want to quickly give you your takeaways. One is that an emotional tank is a really important concept to keep in mind as a coach. And as coaches, we don't control our athletes' emotional tank when they show up to practice, but we do have a great ability to fill and drain their emotional tanks when we coach them. And that if we want our athletes to perform at their highest level, we want to be coaches who are great at filling our athletes' emotional tank. Guys, thank you for being my audience. You guys have been great.
Thanks. All right, nice job.
Kelly, thank you for allowing me to wrap it up. Sorry for going over here.
No, I hate to cut people off. That's the worst part of my job, is having to cut people off, because I want to hear what else you have to say.
Kelly, do you mind if I start with a couple questions to David?
Please do.
David, do you go by David or Dave, or both?
Either one. Dave mostly, but David's fine.
Not Davey?
Nope, not David. Dave or David are fine.
Okay. So Dave, I wanted to ask you, you had such a good practice with me last week. Do you remember, could you summarize the feedback that you were given last week?
Yeah, I know you told me to smile more, and that you wanted to see some more expression. I hope I got that across. I have a sticky note at the top of my computer to smile. So if I didn't do that, I hope I did do that. And the other thing was, I was nervous when I felt like I was much more nervous when I talked to you during our practice than I was today. Felt like I was my other goal, or the thing that I wanted to focus on today, was smiling more and just being a little calmer. Those are the 2 things. And you might have told me something else, but if I did, I apologize for forgetting.
Did I say something about making it more conversational? Did I say something about that? A little less formal?
Yeah, you did, and you gave me feedback at the beginning of my intro, and I did kind of switch it around. You said the first 4 or 5 minutes was too much me, and I did try to adjust that. I went to the video a little bit earlier. I know I probably can't do that with a big audience and do personal introductions, but my guess is if I got 10 or less, I could probably do personal introductions. So I did. That was the other feedback you did give me, Ruben.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to start there. I noticed you taking the feedback and putting it into play here. David, you came across today Believe me, Kelly, David was very good last week, and today he took it to another level. And David, you definitely came across as, this is where I want to be. You took the feedback. You smiled. You showed that you were enjoying it, and you did. You made it more conversational from the start, whereas last time it took you a while to get into that. I just very well done in taking that feedback and implementing it.
Thank you.
Can I ask you another question, Kelly?
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, if you want to give your feedback now, and then I'll go after, so that.
Okay. Well, so David, when you were facilitating here, you were going through the PowerPoint on your monitor. Did you have some kind of split
screen? Yeah, I had the PowerPoint turned up over here, which you guys obviously couldn't see. But yeah, I did have the slides pulled up over here.
On a different monitor? Do you have two monitors going, or do you have a split screen?
I have a split screen. Yeah, I have the PowerPoint on the left side, and I got you and Kelly on the right side.
Okay, so it occurs to me, Kelly, that I want to learn how to help trainers do what David did, so that they can see us. They get the full benefit of the Google Hangout and the visual and audio interaction, and yet they can still get PowerPoint, to help guide them like David did. It was very smooth, right?
Absolutely.
So that's mainly a point for me. Let's see what other questions. I'll turn it over to you guys for now.
Okay. Is that when you do, David, you just minimize the Hangout screen and then have the PowerPoint up? Is that how you do it? Yeah.
Yeah, I got you guys big, and I got it kind of over on the right side. I got the PowerPoint. I shrunk the PowerPoint's not very big, but it's over on the left side, yeah.
Okay.
So I just shrunk you guys. I got you and the PowerPoint on my screen.
Are you doing it right now, Kelly?
I am. I was just shrinking it down to see how well it worked, and it does work. It's pretty good. That is a good suggestion, because that is always a struggle for people trying to figure out how to do the PowerPoint and the Hangout at the same time. So I thought you had two different monitors or something going on. No, I liked it a lot. I didn't get to see your practice session, so I'm glad to hear that you improved on some things. I found you to be conversational. I mean, your voice was enjoyable. It was good to listen to. That's my husband. I have my headphones on. Nobody knows what I'm doing. They think I'm talking to myself. So I really liked the way that you did make it, a conversational talking type of a thing. In the very beginning, you did seem a little bit nervous, and I think you were doing a lot of talking in the beginning. I liked the way you did the Steve Young video right away. I just had some little tweaks that I put. I liked your why story right away. I thought that was really neat, the way you started. You just some statements that you made I really liked, that you said, when I was coaching, I wanted to find out what are the coaches that are smarter than me doing. That's one of the greatest resources I think that PCA has, that we've taken the research from coaches that are a lot smarter than me, and we're sharing it with you. So I like that statement, the way that you said that. The one little tweak I would put is I noticed you were talking to the coaches as you as coaches. I want to help you as coaches. And although that's fine, I really like it when I hear trainers say we. Instead of saying like PCA, this is what PCA thinks, or this is what they say, as PCA being the they, because you are now representing PCA. So PCA is now part of you, and you're also a coach, so they're trying to help. So just phrasing it rather than they and you as sort of a PCA and I are one, and we as coaches, we are all in this together. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
For that.
It's just a minor tweak, but I think it makes a big impression on the audience when it's like, I'm not the total expert here, I'm just sharing information, and we are all benefiting from this. So I just wrote that down at the beginning.
Okay.
I liked your examples, your Georgetown story. I would have liked to see more of how you would get the audience to engage with each other, rather than just have like you engaging with the audience, because at times just having you as a facilitator one and a room full of 50, when you're engaging with questions, it's still just you and the person answering the question. So it's still just two people interacting. I would like to see some ideas on how you would get them, the whole group at once to engaging. You did it a little bit with raising your hand and holding up your fingers. That was a good way to do it. But maybe
Kelly,
yeah.
There's an example of that what he did with the drain fill exercise? Mm-hmm. Is that an example of engaging everybody, or is that not to the level that you're talking about here?
It is. As I said, I probably would have just asked him, how would you engage the audience more? Because you had like one coach, you and David, you and Ruben were the coaches. Would you get the whole audience to do that with verbal and nonverbal, or would you just pick a couple people to do that, or what is your idea about that?
I'd have everybody do that. I think that's an open-ended one where everybody can jump in. Everybody in the audience can be the coaches.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend that to get more voices in there. Yeah, the only, as I said, the only other little tweak things I had that just come with just becoming more smooth and more comfortable. A couple times you said, like, let's look at the next slide. And to me, when a presenter or a facilitator is saying, let's look at the next slide, it means that you are supporting the slides. And really the point is that we're here to learn from you, and the slides are your backup. So instead of, click slide, okay, let me explain what this means. Click slide, let me explain what this means. It's more of you filling us in on the emotional tank, and, oh, and there's a visual behind me that might help illustrate this for you better. So that was another little one that I put out. Also, when you mentioned the book, you mentioned page 40 in the book, which I thought was a big plus. But tell us what's on it, because there's some people that are still fumbling around or didn't get a chance to look at page 40. You said that's on page 40, and I looked in my book because you said, oh, there's some great ideas of ways that you can fill tanks. Pull a couple out and mention, just kind of whet their interest a little bit. Like, wow, criticism sandwich is on page 41. What a great idea that is. Or notice, we have sometimes asking permission of the athlete. Just pulling out a couple to make it not just, oh, on page 40 there's some ideas. Pull out some examples of them.
Great, thank you.
Kelly, can I add something to that?
Sure.
Kelly? Yeah, so I agree with Kelly, and it's also a function of time management, right? Mm-hmm. So how I really like that reference to the book and the drain. Is that the kid-friendly criticism?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really like that, and I thought what you did worked, and I hear what Kelly's saying, that it's a little more, if time permits, but you're also thinking about time management and how deep do you want to go with that. So I just wanted to add that, Kelly.
Okay. Yeah. Ruben, did you catch what David said about sarcasm?
Yeah, was that too strong to say that?
I want to hear. I want to see if Ruben caught it.
I did not catch it. I must not have been paying or writing or something at that point.
Okay.
I think my comment was, I encourage you to stay away from it.
To stay away from sarcasm because it's a tank drainer.
Yeah. Because
sarcasm's a tank drainer?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're getting at, Kelly, because I think that in general is PCA's stance.
Yeah. I agree. I was just wondering, because I've heard it presented different ways, that there has to be a trust factor involved with the athletes. Be very careful about how you would use sarcasm, and giving examples of when sarcasm can be a funny thing and when sarcasm really does drain tanks. So I noticed that when you said it, I agree with you that PCA's stance is that sarcasm is a tank drainer. I usually, just for my sake, people give me pushback on that, I should say.
I've gotten pushback on that one too.
So I just wanted to make you aware, David, that making a strong statement like that, you might be getting some pushback at a time, questions about that. Because I'm a sarcastic person, and my athletes respond really well to sarcasm. What's the problem with it?
So again, that's a place where, in certain points, you're gonna put it out there, and because of timing and your sense that people are kind of buying in, that you're gonna keep moving. There's other times where you're gonna put it out there and you go, with this group I need to add a little more. It's one thing to be sarcastic with our buddies and our cousins and our brothers and sisters. It's another thing to use sarcasm with a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old. Mm-hmm. And the third option is just be prepared with that little extra in case someone goes, wait a minute, sarcasm? I'm sarcastic with my players all the time, and we laugh, and it helps us connect, and so just be ready to address it. Yeah. Yep. Good point, Kelly.
Yep. And the only other takeaway that I have down here, and these are more of just suggestions as you go forward, is you gave a lot of great examples of how coaches can give a 5-to-1 ratio, like that example you did with Ruben in your sentence, such a simple sentence, and you pulled 5 positives out of that, which I thought was fantastic. And then at the end you said, as coaches, I liked your strong statement that coachability is directly related to E-tanks being full or drained. I like that. I wrote that down. I thought that was great. But don't forget to mention, too, the other ways that tanks can be drained are filled by players, by fans, utilizing the other people around you so that it doesn't have to be fully the responsibility of the coach to fill and drain tanks, although that's a really important part. But mentioning some other ways that you can get that 5-to-1 ratio by using their teammates and using, mom and dad in the stands.
Great, thank you.
That's all that I have. I enjoyed it.
I'm signing off. I got a quick message for you, but I'm going to run. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thanks, Ruben.
See the chat box. Bye, guys.
Yep, we see it. All right. So did you have any questions or any feedback on what you did? How did you feel about it?
No, I felt comfortable. I felt much more comfortable than I did when I went with Ruben last week. And no, I appreciate your feedback. I like the things that you told me. I like the fact mentioned other people can fill tanks too. You can get your teammates and to do that as well. And yeah, I'll take your feedback. I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm generally pretty happy with how it went. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, it was very good. You're very knowledgeable and you know what you're doing, and you're very comfortable in your delivery. The only hesitation that I would give is to get more from the audience. Since you do have so much information and you are a very verbal person, to be able to sit back and pull things out of the audience is a struggle. And I'm a very verbal person too. And it took me a while doing these workshops to realize, instead of telling everyone everything they need to know, is saying, wow, 5-to-1 ratio, that's a hard thing to do as a coach. Do you guys have some ideas? How in the world would we get 5 positives? And just sit back and see what the audience gives you, because they can create some amazing examples that you've never thought of, and you're not doing the talking. So anytime you can get ideas pulled out of the room, pulled out of the audience, things like that, it really adds to your value as a facilitator, not just a presenter, not like a lecturer, So then if they don't come up with anything, you can have your example in your pocket ready to go. But it's just nice to be able to hear from them. And for time ability too, I don't know if you had a clock or you were watching, but yeah, you went about 25 minutes just on E-Tank, and then when I stopped you, you wanted to go a couple minutes more. So I think timing is going to be something, again, that you just have to work on and be careful with.
Yeah. As far as sharing with audience to audience sharing, when I do the introduction and most influential coach, that was one of the that would seem like a really good opportunity to use that. Was there anything in the E-Tank one that I missed that were like, hey, a great way to go audience to audience in E-Tank is, did I miss
No,
a good way to do that?
Just getting ideas. E-Tank's a great way to get ideas, and I've heard tons of ideas from coaches on things that they do to boost the emotional tanks of their players that have nothing to do with the sport. Somebody that said, oh, we take our players, one of our soccer captains was in the play, so we took the whole group to go see the play. Now think about how that filled up that kid's E-Tank, that the whole soccer team went to see this kid star in the school play. Like, how cool is that? Things like that you wouldn't necessarily think of as a facilitator, that when you hear it in a room of your peers as a coach, you're like, wow, that's a really cool idea. I never thought to even do that. So especially with emotional tanks being so fragile, I also always bring up too, and this is just a personal thing and it's been brought up before, what do you think is the difference between emotional tank filling and draining of females versus male athletes? If you're coaching female versus male athletes, is there a difference?
Yeah. Are you asking me?
Yeah. What would you think?
Well, my impression is females are more socially oriented, so that the social connections, anything related to relationship is going to be, that would be a more powerful way to fill a female's emotional tank. Guys were more achievement oriented. So if you're praising me for hitting the game winning shot, that's more going to fill up my tank than saying, I don't know, that I'm a good teammate, although that would fill my tank. Guys, I guess my first reaction is guys are more achievement and performance oriented. not exclusively, but women are more relational oriented.
Mm-hmm. And I always bring that up for filling e-tanks and draining e-tanks, because more and more lately I've found, especially at the youth level, there's a lot more men coaching girls teams. I think before there was a lot more women coaching the girls and the men coach the boys. And I find a lot of dads out there coaching their daughters' teams. And it's just good to point out sometimes that, that you have to be careful with your tank filling. Yes, we want you to be truthful and specific, but females are a lot more like quick. They want quick feedback. And they find that boys are more long-term, like the overall relationship needs to be positive 5-1. But boys are, as you said, a little bit more achievement-oriented. They want to hear how they played. They want to hear how they did. They want to hear what their skills were. Where girls are just sometimes happy to hear, you know what, that was fantastic effort you gave out there today. So I just always bring that up. I think it's a good, maybe being a female coach and female athlete, it's something that I think is relevant. I've had people ask me before the differences in coaching, and this for E-Tank I think is one of the biggest ones. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else. I was trying to go through them quickly because I know Ruben had to leave, but looking through, I don't think there's anything that I missed. I like the Georgetown story. I think I said that. I thought that was a really good, I love relevant examples.
It takes some time. Let me ask you this. If I am crunched for time, is that, I don't know. In fact, I was going to, when I started to start that, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do it. And then I started to say it and I realized, oh, I should probably. Is it, I mean, I know you want to have stories because that connects people, or it was a different way to connect people. But then the other, obviously, you got to balance it with time. And I guess I'll figure that out.
I think it's a quick story. I think it's good. I always think anytime you can bring in real life examples of real life coaches in high pressure, I mean, that's a great example of a high pressure situation, a high pressure coach. There's a lot more on the line for Georgetown than there is for your Pee Wee soccer team. And that coach took the time to find that player and put his arm around him. There's a tank filler right there. Yeah. How many of us have walked away and not even wanted to speak to the kid that missed the winning goal? And this is NCAA championships, and look what he did, because he knew the value of it. And I think that's the key. It's not just doing it because we're telling you to do it. It's doing it because of the value. And I think you did a really nice job at hitting, I call them strong statements. You talked about performance. You talked about full tanks perform better, and that's the bottom line. And so as coaches, we know the value of filling tanks, not just to make the kids feel good and all love each other and have fun, but it's because that's what's going to get the most out of them, which is going to bring the most to your sport. So I thought you did a nice job. It would just be, my only suggestion would just be to practice more, get it a little bit more. I didn't realize that that Ruben mentioned about smiling, because I actually wrote that down. Smile more right away. Just because you when you talk and you tell a story, you smile and you're more comfortable. And then when you're going through the principles and the slides, it was more like boom, 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 like teacher mode, like serious teacher mode. So, and it's different. It's different being too. I mean, being a teacher, this is something that is a teaching moment. We are educating people, but it's not like you're teaching them a subject that they think they know nothing about. You're teaching old dogs new tricks, and that's a difficult thing to do. It's not like, oh, well, now I'm going to teach you this brand new topic that you've never heard of before. I'm going to teach you how to coach. Now it's like, this is the way you've been doing things all along, and I'm going to show you a better way to do it. And so to get the audience to receive you better, the more we can feel like we're in it together. I'm on your side. I've screwed up too. I've been there. Here's what I've learned. Here's what Jim Thompson the research has, the book has taught me, or the research from Columbia has taught me on 5-1 and growth mindset. It's just like, that's how I kind of present it, as we're all in this together. We're all trying to do what's best for the kids. Let me share with you some information I have. Okay. And it just seems to connect to the audience a little bit better. Okay. But no, I'm excited. I think you did a great job. Now, I did have a couple questions for you even before you got on. You're in Columbus, correct?
Yep, Columbus.
So how far is that from like the Metro Cleveland area?
2-hour drive.
2 hours. Okay. Because I know Nick Sipkiss said he's trying to get more partnerships down in the Columbus area. But I just wanted, I was talking to Jim Bucci earlier, and I told him that you were going today. And I said, well, I'll be following up, because, in the next goal for you is to get out there and co-present at a live workshop. Okay. As of right now, I don't know how many of them are in the, closer to Columbus than a 2-hour drive, which is, probably not ideal for you.
Yeah.
So
we can make it work.
Okay.
You still there? You still there, Kelly? You froze, Kelly. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but you're frozen. You're frozen, Kelly. I can't hear you if you can hear me. Oh.
Are you there? Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're back now. I can hear you now. Couldn't get you for a while.
I don't know what happened. My Google's like cupping out on me. But anyway, so the next thing I would do is talk to Jim and Nick in Cleveland and find out how we can get you at a live workshop to co-present with someone else, and you would pick a portion, e-tank, or if you wanted to try something else, and you would present just a portion of it, just a 20-minute principle of it with another trainer that's there. So I will try to, I'll look at the schedule for Cleveland, and I'll send you a list of where the Cleveland workshops are and see if we can get you out there to do that sometime sooner than later.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, well, thanks very much, and I'll be in touch.
You're welcome. Thanks for teaching the course too, Kelly. It was awesome.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Had a great time.
Good, I'm so glad. Take care.